Hello, guys and gals. It's that time of the month again. Pretty irregular, by the way, too, considering how I release these episodes. But, that being said, we got two shitpostas here. No, not just one. We got two. Classic duology stuff here. We got the Greenblade Necroprocessor. Alright? Okay. Can we all just stop laughing for a second? I haven't even given the second one out. Alright. The second one is Manhunt Beta 1999. So, all I can really say is, hold on to those quality standards, sit back, and let's begin with our very first shitposter for this episode. The Greenblade Necroprocessor. Oh boy, I love this! Greenblade Corporation was a computer manufacturing company established in 1993. Many of their products cannot be found today, as they failed the tests taken by the employees. The story tells of their evident downfall in 1998 based on their one successful product, the Macroprocessor 96. I was one of the software testers for Greenblade Corporation. I believe I am the first employee to reveal the truth about our company. You may not know about Greenblade, unless you are one of the employees that didn't die during the test. I was ordered to give this warning because there were 19 macroprocessors that somehow got produced, without us knowing. Our first few tests were tests of our terabyte computers. These were composed of the Terabyte 94, the Terabyte 95, and, brace this, the Terabyte X. All three of these tests failed, so we stopped testing the Terabyte systems and planned to make a new line. Our new set of computers were named Macroprocessors. We began testing them in 1995. The Macroprocessor 95 failed, and we were beginning to lose hope already, and our contributors stopped donating money towards our corporation. Then, a new employee joined us, Scott Jones. And when he joined us, things began to get better. Scott was the first to present an idea for the Macroprocessor 96, and finally, after days of testing and editing, it passed the test. However, we made so many edits to his idea that it seemed nothing like his original prototype. Scott was angry at us, and he quit the next day, but before he left, he said in a dark tone, "Have fun disappointing your customers." When we went outside to ship the Macroprocessor 96 to the stores, none of the trucks were there to collect our new product. It turned out that Scott bribed the truck drivers to leave the area. The testers began dying after testing new software. We gave up on production in 1997, and the company closed down in 1998. No one even knew about Greenblade, and they probably wouldn't. Until now. Later that year, I visited the Greenblade building. I went to the storage room to look at some of our failed tests. I realized that some of the macroprocessors were still left. I went over to one of the computers to take one for myself. It didn't seem like the best idea at the time, but it saved our company from getting a worse reputation. A note was attached to the box, which I read when I arrived home. It read Macroprocessor 96 final product. Test it if you dare. After 2 years, the Macroprocessor 96 still worked. However, as I opened up a program, it would close by itself, and this happened over and over. A message box popped up on my screen. It read, "You have 2 new documents waiting to be read." I opened the documents folder. 2 Greenblade documents were sitting in a folder titled Do Not Delete. They were titled Hate.gbdoc and I Warned You.gbdoc. The document titled Hey simply read, "It turns out one of your pathetic testers came across my final product. SJ. I warned you." Read, "This'll teach you not to edit a perfectly good computer. -SJ. Based on the initials, I could easily infer that this computer was made by Scott. I could easily infer that this computer was made by Scott. I attempted to shut the computer, and another message popped up. It read, "You now have 1 document waiting to be read." The new document was, "I wouldn't do that. .gbdoc. The documents had no words on it. I deleted these documents and left it on, hoping it would shut down because of a dead battery. A few hours later, I checked on the computer. It had yet another message box, reading, "You have 1 chart waiting to to be viewed. This chart was titled greenbladedeaths.gbcrt. It, brace for yourself, okay, this is a big shocker, it was a chart, with each product labeled on the left, and the number of deaths on the right. The chart started at the Macroprocessor 96 deaths, and ended at the Superbrain 97. Our last product, with more deaths. It was apparently supposed to point out the fact that more testers were dying after making the Macroprocessor 96. A bit of text appeared at the bottom reading, "This is your fault." Here's the chart, for those wondering. The battery level reached 10%, and when it reached 0%, it was still running. Another message box appeared. You have one picture waiting to be viewed. The picture was titled yourfate.gbpix. It was an image of all the dead testers. However, based on the image, I could tell that they didn't commit suicide, and that they were murdered. The computer then shut itself off. The next day, I received a letter. It read, "So you're the tester that found my final product. I'll let you live. For now. However, you won't be able to save the 19 people who will receive the same thing." There were no return addresses, and it had no stamp. I managed to get an idea of what really happened. Basically, after Scott left the company, he planned to murder as much of the Green Blade testers as possible, and make it look like suicide, so that the company was shut down. He also sent out as many of these computers as possible to the public. He would murder the unlucky recipients and pretend it was suicide to continue giving Greenblade a bad reputation. The irony is that he claimed the company in 2009. A lot of people know about the infamous video game Manhunt. Released in 2003, it was highly controversial for the amount of gore and violence in it, and it was banned by many places. It was later followed by an even more controversial sequel in 2007. What a lot of people don't know is that the beta version of the game from 1999, the year production actually began on the game, Rockstar Games was just starting work on GTA 3, but had in mind another game, which at the time was called Blood Dance. A cheesy title, which would later in production be named to Manhunt. A few years back, I worked at a GameStop a few minutes away from my apartment. I was really into video games and owned a lot of systems. One day, I was stacking some new games on the shelves when I came across a CD case with a simple label on it, with Blood Dance Beta in 1999. I didn't know where it had come from, so I ended up bringing it home with me later that day. When I got home, I decided to check out what the disc was. I put the disc into my computer, and it was a PC version of the game and loaded up. The opening looked a lot like the original opening, with the various gang members being shown. At the end of the opening credits, the title showed the original. However, instead of the white Manhunt logo, it was replaced by a red Blood Dance logo. And this is where I knew right away that it was the Manhunt beta. The main menu came up, and it looked completely different from the final version of the game. Instead of the original menu, it was simply a menu with New Game, Options, and Quit. I picked New Game, and it started up with a cutscene inside of a hospital, with the camera-like static. It then panned over to a dark hallway with the beta version of Pigsy, chainsaw in hand, walking down, slouching. Gameplay began here, and a box came up on the right side of the screen giving basic instructions. Kill. I messed around with the controls a bit, and the arrow keys moved Pigsy, and X key was the attack key, and those were the only controls. The hospital was abandoned, except for the people lying in the various hospital beds that you could enter and kill. After killing what seemed to be everyone in the dark hospital, the game quickly cut to another static scene, which then turned into the Scene Completed menu. Still nothing quite out of the ordinary yet. The loading screen came up and it said, Deliverance. I was surprised, as Deliverance was the final level in the actual game. The gameplay just abruptly started, and I was inside of Starkweather's attic, the location of the original Deliverance level. Suddenly the game stopped. "Fuck!" I said out loud, in disappointment. I went to bed after that, deciding to just try it again tomorrow. That night, though, I had a nightmare that I was being chased by the beta model of Pigsy. When I woke up, the abrupt minute I awoke, I could have sworn I heard a faint squeal of a pig. It was probably just my mind fucking with me, I said to myself. I looked over the clock next to my bed. 4 a.m. I tried going back to sleep, but I couldn't. I had to play the game. Lucky for me, I didn't have work the next day. I got up and went back to my computer. The apartment was almost pitch black. I never bothered to turn on the lights. I started up the game, and this time the menu displayed the new option, Continue. Thank fucking God. I clicked it, and it resumed right where I was the last time. The level was almost identical to the final version used in the actual game. However, the graphics were a little reduced. It was an earlier version than what you'd expect. The main objective was the same as last. Kill. However, I couldn't find anything to actually kill. I almost shut the game off, but right before, I did a clan of straight jacket-swearing creatures in smiley face masks come running out after me. So I killed them with the chainsaw, as the objective said. The game shut off again. I got frustrated, so I stopped playing it, and after a few days I had forgotten all about it. Until about a week later, that is. I kept on waking up in the middle of the night, around 3:30 to 4 a.m., hearing the faint squealing. A chainsaw ripping into flesh, and what sounded like an infant crying. I thought I was going crazy. I kept on hearing voices in my head, repeating kill over and over again. Just like the objective of the game, I finally took the disc and snapped it in half, threw it in the trash, hoping to never see it again. Everything went back to normal after that, though. I stopped waking up in the middle of the night to the sounds, and I stopped hearing voices. A few months had went by, and I completely forgot about the game. It was now February 2007. I went to work on a pretty normal day. A friend of mine was also working at the store, and I guess we were just discussing games when he brought up that Manhunt 2 had been coming out. When I got home, I looked up the game, and what do you know? A few days earlier, Rockstar Games had officially announced a sequel to Manhunt. It was then that I noticed that Blood Dance icon was still on my desktop. I clicked on it, and, to my misfortune, the game started. I opened up the disc tray and was shocked to see that the game I had snapped in half and threw away was in perfect condition. The game I snapped was in perfect condition, sitting in my disc tray. The nightmares continued, and to this day, I'm still waking up at 4 a.m. to the horrible noises that have been haunting me for 5 years now. I got a new computer a few years ago, but the disc somehow found its way back to my new computer, and no matter how many times I try to get rid of it, it keeps coming back. My life has seen a lot of changes now, and it's never gonna be the same ever again. Well, that was that. 2 shitpastas team. Now, in classic duology episodes, one always does come out better than the other, and in this case, I'd have to say Manhunt Beta, but by a very small margin. Now, first we'll start with the cream of the poo. God, it's a disgusting analogy. The one simply known as the Green Blade Necroprocessor. What the fuck is it even? I don't know. I mean, it's like watching a 90s sci-fi movie with all the futuristic crap, but let's be honest, that would never happen anywhere close to our lifetimes, or really, our kids' lifetime, whatever. It wouldn't happen for a long time. Now, the hell is a terabyte computer? I don't know. I don't know what that means. And even more so, we got these macro processors. And none of that ever makes any technical sense whatsoever. No explanation even goes into it. It's like, here's a macro processor, and well, let's go right through it. What's a macro processor? Well, fuck it. We're not going to give the explanation. Moving on with the story. Now, again, story-wise, you have the core, which is this one jaded employee. Dude, I work in the business, man, and, I've had ideas of mine edited to hell, too, by other people, by a lot of people, actually. There's plenty of, and it happens all the time. It happens to everyone, more than once, actually. You don't see me destroying the company and killing people over it. I mean, that's something that just seems so unreal. I mean, the only way to explain it, if it's like, I don't know, I guess a demonic entity or something, or some really, really messed up individual whose life revolves around the company. And if we go there, I mean, we're kind of really grasping at straws. And if that's the case, why doesn't the creepypasta explain it? The fact that you have a graph as well, again, these file extensions, by the way, too, were really cringeworthy, too. I mean, why couldn't they just use regular JPEGs or text files? I don't know. But the fact that this graph shows over 100 people dead from necroprocessors, again, whatever the hell that is, and no one ever hears of this company called Green Blade. I mean, I googled up Green Blade, it takes me to a lawn mowing company. It's something. That isn't possible at all. I mean, if you really want to fix this, you gotta, completely abandon this idea, or at least rewrite it with actual technical know-how. I mean, this isn't even Hollywood computing. This is, a million times worse. Then you have the brilliant Manhunt Beta in 1999. And brilliant in the terms of this relative episode right here. Really? Blood Dance? I mean, before we begin, Blood Dance? I mean, are you fucking serious? And what was the phenomenon exactly? You basically played the last mission. I mean, it was literally the exact same game to an extent. No, it was like the environments actually from both of the games, Hospital and Attic, Hospital from the Manhunt 2, or Asylum rather, and the Attic from Manhunt 1 were just combined into this one mega blood dance game. And what else occurred? The Nightmare? But before we even touch that, what about the game acquisition? In creepypastas, does GameStop never actually pull any inventory checks? I mean, how in the literal fuck would a retailer just have a copy of the beta version for the game, which would probably be back at Rockstar warehouses or Rockstar, studios, if it were to ever exist in the first place? And even if that was the case, how the hell did it leave GameStop warehouses where this stuff gets shipped in the first place? I mean, really, you gotta have something going on at the company that you really need to check out. And you have to pull out parts of your brain to make this sensical at times. Now, when you get nightmares, that actually would have been pretty damn, good if they used the second game, Manhunt 2, and worked an idea where the game would play with flashing colors and audio inserts to fuck with users' minds and implanting, a word like kill or a thought like it into your head. And it would play with, the ideology of the game as well, Manhunt 2, where it is all about that, being fucked in the head and getting all these things inserted. It would make sense. It would be a relevant creepypasta. But here, it was all disjointed and all over the place. And that's one of the problems, too. It feels really disjointed. Both of these feel just disjointed. I mean, both of them have, both of them have clear, part 1, part 2, part 3, like a beginning, middle, and end, but they just have no cohesiveness together. But even in the end of all this, Manhunt wins the award. It's the better of the two, although not by much. But that being said, I mean, if you wanted to fix this one, again, take Manhunt 2, for example, or, take Manhunt 1. Try finding relevance in there, Play with the ideology of snuff pornography. Play with somebody fucking with your head. Play with the fact that you get a voice in your ear, alright? And make that, go through. Don't just throw nightmares into something. Make a relevant creepypasta out of the subject. And, when you take a game like Manhunt, it's kind of already difficult to make a creepypasta out of that game considering the source material involved. But that's how you really go around fixing both of these creepypastas. We're not assholes here. We have fun around with shitpastas. And again, these are creepypastas that are on the fine line, between trollpastas or creepypastas. In fact, they're creepypastas written with actual love and tender care put into them. But they just don't get anywhere because of, many key errors. And in the end, as always, I do ask you, which one do you find better? And what would you personally change to make these better? This has been another episode of Shitpastas, and if you like what you saw, then please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it. This is me, Mutahar, and I'm out.